One of the key things that we were trying to get through in the book is this notion of permanent beta. And what it is you think the world's changing constantly, globalization, competition's changing constantly, and you are also changing. So the industries are changing, the landscape that the company's operating in is changing. You never are a finished product. You never said, okay, I achieved that and it's done, now it's just kind of, follow the railroad tracks, the career escalator, it's just, that's the path that we're doing. And so we borrowed a term that has happened a lot and now for a lot of internet companies, which is beta, which is, oh, we've released the product, like e.g. you've released yourself as a product, but you're a work in progress. That even though you're in production and you're going, you're never finished, and you're always looking at what are the key things you do in order to be a good product, to have a good product market fit for how you're doing your work, how you're managing your career. And part of one of the things that we also took in addition to kind of I think Gmail was in beta for like 8 years or something. Yeah. It's also Jeff Bezos opens every shareholder letter with it's day one, and that attitude to how you approach your work and how you approach your career is essential to adapting and creating a work life in the modern world. And so to think about yourself as always in permanent beta and that it is always day one.
Zigging and zagging is the far more common career path. Andrea Bocelli was a lawyer before he became an opera singer. Jerry Springer was mayor of Cincinnati, Ohio, before he became a daytime talk host. So the kind of constant reinvention actually I think is more the norm. And we see this in the career. One person we highlight in the book and we'll highlight this morning is Sheryl Sandberg. And most people know Sheryl as the Silicon Valley Titan COO of Facebook. And it may be surprising to learn that as an idealistic undergrad, Sheryl probably would have never guessed that she'd be in Silicon Valley working in a private sector in a for-profit company. Because her initial aspirations and values were to help the less fortunate, to give back, to try to make the world a better place. And she launched her career by going to India and working on public health projects for the World Bank. And after a couple years at the World Bank, decided that, well, that was having impact. She wanted to try something different. So went and got her MBA and then went to work at McKinsey as a management consultant for a couple years. But then after consulting, that had a certain kind of impact, a different type of impact, but she wanted to experiment yet again. And then she pivoted from NGO to the private sector, then into the public sector and working at the Treasury Department for Larry Summers for several years. And after Bill Clinton's term ended in 2001, Sheryl was thinking about what to do next in her career. She had adapted, she'd been pursuing opportunities to date. What was the next big opportunity? And Sheryl tells a story of how she was meeting with Eric Schmidt, then the CEO of Google, laying out in detail the pros and cons of all these different career opportunities she had. And Schmidt gave her some very valuable advice. He said, get out of the weeds. Focus on where the growth is in the world. Where are the big opportunities? And ride that wave. As it turned out, the big opportunity at the time in 2002 was Google. And Schmidt hired Sheryl, and Sheryl grew a sales operation in California from 4 people to thousands of people worldwide. And it's amazing to hear her career story, the remarkable adaptation, the constant pursuit of opportunity, and yet always holding true to some basic values about how to make the world a better place, how to make the world more connected, how to give back. And she's pursued that aspiration in many different career contexts.
So the framework that we detail in the book, and this is all advice that I have given entrepreneurs that then refactored to individuals, is this framework of ABZ planning. And most people, when they think about plan B, they actually think, oh, that's what happens when plan A totally fails. You run into a wall, and then you pull out this very detailed, and now I'm going to do something, it's almost like Monty Python. Now something entirely different. And that's actually not a very useful way of thinking about it. What you have is you have a plan A, which is, okay, your current plan, what you're doing. Plan B is not one coherent, unified plan, but is a set of things that you look at as risks and opportunities and what you're doing in plan A. Like when you take your investment thesis of this is why plan A is going to work for me, you kind of say, you break that down and you say, well, here are some things that I might discover that are opportunities, here's some risks, so it might not work, and here's things that I might do as parameters of motion in terms of how I might move between them. Plan Z is part of what allows you to take risk, because you say, well, when is my investment thesis going to start trending negative? What kinds of things would happen? Like, would it be like, well, look, we're really not getting, in the company case, any traction with users. I'm not being able to accomplish certain kinds of projects as an individual. When does that investment thesis trend negative in this plan? And if it's trending negative, you don't wait until you hit the wall. You say, this is how I reset to a new plan A. And this sort of planning framework allows you essentially to adaptively plan. Because you say, I am working. It's not like I have no plan. It's not like I just say, well whatever comes. I have a strategic thing that I'm trying to do. I have some thoughts about how I might adapt to what's happening when I discover the market, competition, how I myself might change. And I have a lifeboat with okay, I know I'm on a bad path. How do I reset to getting onto an interesting path?
All right, so just to sum up the points, we just randomly picked 140 characters for each bullet point.
Yeah, I wonder why.
The first is engage in career planning, but don't set firm plans. I think that's a useful way that I think about remembering the difference. Planning is important, plans not so much.
The plan A, just as I mentioned, is what you're doing right now. And the key thing to think about what you're doing in a plan is how are you going to achieve something by investing in a path that increases your capabilities, that increases your competitive advantage, that makes you a much more powerful individual professional in increasing your capability. And so that's always what you're driving for in a principal plan.
Now with Plan B, always think about Plan B's parameter of motion. One question we've gotten in response to the book is, like, should you always have a firm Plan B that you've written down? And I think the answer is no. I mean, I think when Reed's favorite phrase, parameters of motion, I think is the way to think about Plan B. It's kind of some thoughts about possible opportunities. What skills have you developed? What experiences have you developed that are transferable? Where is the kind of adjacent niche in your industry that you could pivot into? So it's not a hard set Plan B that you've written down, but it's thinking about that motion.
Yep. And then the Plan Z is, and what's really critical is to think in advance about, okay, what were the things that I think would mean that I'm on the wrong path, that my parameters of motion B aren't working, and that I just need to reset the path.